Hi guys, it's Angie with Fun Endeavors Tie-Dye Lab. Today let's reverse dye a single geode shirt. This shirt started out kind of a peach type color, and it's a 100% cotton, no boundaries brand t-shirt. I think I purchased it from Walmart several years ago. I have the shirt turned inside out, and I'm going to use a washable marker to make a mark down in the lower portion of the shirt where I'd like for the center of my geode to be. I'm only going to grab one layer of fabric, and I'm going to grab the inside of that mark that I just drew, lift the shirt up off of the table, give it a really good shake so that it kind of falls naturally. Then I'm going to slide my hand down to the bottom of the shirt, and that's where I'm going to start tying my geode rings. I'm not going to smooth the fabric out because actually the messier it is when I tie it, the better my geode looks. I am going to vary the distance between the lines. And on this shirt, you can put as many lines or as few lines as you'd like to. I'm going to tie my lines with sinew because I am going to do a color removal process. And the sinew has a wax coating on it, which is not going to allow the color remover underneath that area. So when I make several wraps of the sinew, pull it really tightly until I feel it locked down on the shirt. And then continue on to the next line. Underneath those lines, it's going to remain this peach color. If you'll notice when I get close to what's going to be the center of the geode, I start really messing with that fabric down at the end, kind of pushing it in, roughing it up. I really want to make sure this doesn't end up looking perfect. You know, bullseye is a really cool design, but not on a geode shirt. So in order to keep the center from looking like a bullseye, I start tying from the outside in, and I keep messing with this fabric that's at the center of the geode. As I get closer, when I keep pushing the fabric inside and causing extra wrinkles in it, when I actually tie that fabric, it's going to be all kinds of weird shapes. So it's going to make that center look pretty interesting. I'm actually going to split the center of my geode too and make two separate little geode center areas. To do that, I'm going to kind of separate the fabric with my hands, then take my sinew down through that end fabric, kind of divide off one small section and wrap that one small section like a geode center. Then because I'm doing a color removal process, I am not going to go ahead and cut my sinew off right here. I'm going to leave this shirt tied through the entire process, through the color removal process, the soaking in soda ash, the dyeing process. I'm not going to untie it until the very end. So to keep my sinew from unraveling, I'm going to wind the sinew back down this little area I just tied, go down the other side and tie that part, the other part of the center of the geode. And then once the other side of this center of the geode is tied, I'm going to wind the sinew back down that area again and continue winding the sinew back down into a thicker portion of the shirt before I cut it off. In those really thin areas at the very end of the shirt, the sinew is not quite as tight as down in the thicker portion of the shirt because I can't get as good of a grip on that area and pull it as tight. So when I wind it around one of the thicker areas of the shirt and then I cut it off, it just seems to wear better. I don't have as many problems with it unraveling in the washing machine and through some of the other processes. For the color removal process, I'm going to use a product called Out White Brite Laundry Whitener. And I purchased mine at Walmart. It's usually on the laundry aisle, kind of by the bleach products, even though it's not really a bleach product. It doesn't damage the fabric the way bleach does, and it works really quickly. If you can't find any at one of your local stores, I have a link below down in the description for this video where you can purchase some from Amazon. I also like to do a whole bunch of shirts, or in this case I have dresses and shirts and several different items in this container all at the same time. You know, when I start boiling the water, I hate to do that and go through this process for just one shirt at a time. So I pull a whole bunch and tie a bunch of shirts at once. I've placed them all down inside of this plastic tub or tote, and I'm doing this process outside because Out White Brite does have a smell, and I don't want that in my dye space. And I'm also wearing my respirator for this process because I don't want to inhale any of the powder or the fumes from the Out White Brite. I'm going to liberally sprinkle the Out White Brite over the top of the items in the tub or tote, and then I'm going to pour a couple of pots of boiling hot water over all of these items. Ideally, I'd like to have all the items submerged under the Out White Brite solution. However, I've added a lot of things in this tub this time, so that's not going to happen. But what I am going to do is I'm going to take a pair of metal tongs, which I purchased from the Dollar Tree dollar store, and I'm going to use those to move the items around in my Out White Brite solution. If you notice, when I add the first pot of boiling hot water to the tub, the minute the hot water hits that Out White Brite, it starts to remove the color. It starts to foam, kind of fizz up. And some of these items just almost automatically have the color removed. I am going to go ahead and add the second container of boiling hot water and then use those tongs to kind of rotate the items in the Out White Brite solution so that everything gets fully saturated and the color gets removed. There are a few items that are tied pretty tightly, and it's going to take a little longer on those. The items that are tied pretty loosely, they will have the color removed almost immediately. Once the color's removed in an item, I'm going to bring out another tote and place those items in that other tote. Then I'll kind of rotate taking them to my sink and rinsing them out in really cold water and putting them in my washing machine. I'm going to go ahead and speed the video up at this point. Up to this point, for the Out White Brite process, I've shown this to you at real time so you can see really how fast it works. Okay, so after I take an item out, rinse it in cold water, and then place it in the washing machine, once I have all of these items rinsed and they're all in my washing machine, I'm going to add a little bit of Dharma's Professional Textile Detergent, and I'm going to wash all the items on a cold water cycle. It really doesn't matter if you wash them on cold, warm, hot. I just wash them to get out part of the smell from the Out White Brite solution and the residue from the Out White Brite. I know some tie-dyers have complained about using Out White Brite because of the smell, but I haven't really noticed that problem myself because I do try to get that like residue and smell rinsed and washed out of there almost immediately after the removal process. So I think that has helped with me not having a lingering smell in my shirts. Then after I take the shirts out of the washing machine, I'm going to place them inside of a soda ash solution and allow them to soak for at least 20 to 30 minutes. I want them to get well saturated with the soda ash solution. And of course, some of these items are tied tighter than others, so they may need to soak a little bit longer. I'm also going to use a separate soda ash solution for the reverse dyed items. When I place these down inside of the soda ash solution, a little bit of residual color and some smell can come out into the soda ash solution. So I don't want to continue using that for white items. I'll add a photo at the end of this process to show you what my soda ash solution looked like after I was finished soaking all of these items. The blue item that you see in my Out White Brite container, that left a definite blue hue inside of my soda ash. Then I'm going to spin out these items with my Panda spin dryer like normal, and then I'm going to place them aside and allow them to dry out. Most of the folds that I have inside of this container that I'm reverse dyeing are fairly thick, and I like to dye thick folds when they're completely dry. If you'd like a little more information about that, I have a blog post about that topic out on my website, and I have a link down below in the description for this video to my website. Okay, so the shirt is completely dry, and I do have one little area of sinew which has come unraveled. I'm going to go ahead and just cut that off, and then I'm going to make myself an ice barrier. I'm going to use some silicone cake molds for my ice barrier. I'm going to attach them together, wrap them around the shirt, and then hold them up close to the shirt using some wooden clothespins. I have a link down below in the description for this video for where you can purchase the silicone cake molds. Because the shirt is kind of thick in the middle, I don't have a lot of space between the top of the shirt and the silicone cake molds to place ice. So I've taken some plastic cutting boards that I purchased from the Dollar Tree dollar store, and I've cut those in strips. I'm going to place one strip on each side of the silicone cake molds, right in the middle portion of the shirt. The wooden clothespins will help hold that up close, and that will give me a little extra depth where I can place the ice on the shirt. I also lightly sprayed the shirt with a little bit of soda ash solution, which I have inside of a spray bottle. Since the shirt is completely dry, that's going to help the dye to stick to the top just a little bit better. I've chosen some purple colors for this shirt because I thought that purple would look really good with the peach colored lines. I'm going to randomly apply the dye over the top of the shirt, and I'm going to put some of the colors right in those areas that were formed by the sinew. I'm going to put some of the colors on the lines, and I'm just going to truthfully try to keep it as random as possible. I think it'll just look more cool that way. So let me tell you the colors that I'm using, and then I also have them listed below in the description for this video. From Dharma Trading Company, I'm going to use Powerberry, Imperial Purple, and then I'm going to use Wisteria at the very end. Then I'm also going to use Elysian and Purple Twilight, which are Dye Spin Dark Horse colors. I'm going to use Royal Purple from Dye Spin. I'm going to use Aster from Pro Chemical and Dye. And lastly, I'm going to use Royal Purple from Grateful Dyes. Since both of the Royal Purples are mixed colors, they do not look the same. I mean, they're both purple and they're both beautiful colors, but they don't look the same. So that's something to keep in mind whenever you're buying dyes that maybe have the same name, but you're buying them from a different supplier. You need to swatch them because they may not look that similar or that much like each other. Now, when you're talking the pure dyes or hues like fuchsia or lemon yellow, those are pretty much going to look the same across dye suppliers. Now I'm going to add an additional sprinkle of dry soda ash over the top of the dye, and I'm going to add on some ice. Then over the top of the ice, I'm going to add the Wisteria color from Dharma Trading Company. Wisteria is just a very light purple. You know, when I do normal geodes, I usually add some ecru over the top, and so I thought I would try the light Wisteria and see what it looks like. Then I'm going to place this shirt aside, and I'm going to allow the ice to melt. Once the first layer of ice melted, I still had quite a bit of undissolved dye left sitting on top, so I went ahead and added a second layer of ice. After that layer of ice melted, I came back and added a third layer of ice. After the third layer of ice melted, I placed the shirt aside and I allowed it to process for about 24 hours before I began rinsing it out. To rinse the shirt, I took it to my utility sink and I began rinsing it in cold water to rinse out the soda ash. Then I untied the shirt and warmed the water up to hot and continued rinsing in hot water to rinse out the excess dye that didn't bond with the fabric. Instead of rinsing for a long time, I placed the shirt in some really hot water along with a little bit of Blue Dawn dish detergent. Then I just allowed the shirt to soak. When the water cooled off, I changed it out and I continued that soaking process until my water was remaining almost clear. Then I put the shirt along with some Dharma's Professional Textile Detergent into my washing machine and I washed it using a hot water cycle. Okay, so I've washed, dried, and ironed the shirt and let's see how it looks. Okay, so what do you guys think? So I think this one looks pretty, but I'm a little bit disappointed because I don't have great color saturation. And honestly, I'm not entirely sure why. So when you look at the shirt, I do still have the peach lines left and most of the other color was removed. So I had good saturation with the Out White Brite. But either I didn't have good saturation with the soda ash solution or the dye just didn't saturate fully down through the shirt correctly. I'm not entirely sure. So this is what happens when you don't let your shirts dry out in between the soda ash soak and actually dyeing them. This is what I used to have happen when I would try to apply the dye when the shirt was still too damp. That is definitely not the problem this time because after I did the soda ash soak, I placed the shirt aside and it was probably like 2 weeks before I got back to actually applying the dye. So when I say the shirt was dry, I mean it was fully dry. And of course, I added quite a bit of ice, so I don't really know that, I didn't have enough ice to force the dye down through the shirt. And I did the normal soda ash solution soak, and then I sprinkled additional soda ash on top of my dye. So it just may have been a perfect storm of things that made it not get well saturated. I don't know. I really don't know. I don't think it looks horrible. I like the kind of taupey color that the shirt turned after it had the color removed. It's kind of a really light yellowy taupey color. So I think it still looks kind of cool having some of that color left with the purple and the peach lines. But like I said, I'm disappointed that I didn't get more color on the shirt. I do have some cool color splits though on the back of the shirt coming from the Elysian, and I think that looks really interesting or fun up in that shoulder area. I also really like the shape of the geode. I think that turned out looking pretty cool. And right on one edge of that geode, I have a blue line. I don't know what that's coming out of either. It almost looks like a river running on the outside of the forest or something. I don't know, it's kind of fun. And then on the back, I have some little yellow areas. There's a lot of interesting things on this shirt to look at. But overall, I'm a little bit disappointed in this shirt. I wish it had more color and looked a little bit more how I had envisioned it in my head. I did a whole bunch of things all at the same time when I did the reverse dyeing, and I took them all through the same exact process of soaking in soda ash, spinning out, allowing them to dry, and this is the only one of those items that didn't get well saturated with color. So I just think it was a fluky thing with this shirt. I think this shirt in general is a little bit odd. It, like I said, is the No Boundaries brand. And inside it says it's a size medium, 38 to 40. But I'm not joking when I say this size medium would fit like an extra large. It's not sized correctly. So maybe there was just something wrong with this shirt. I don't know, but I sure would appreciate it if you guys would drop me some comments down below and let me know what you think. And if you've enjoyed the video, I would appreciate it if you would like it and if you'd subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you'll hit the bell, you'll receive a notification whenever I upload a new video. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a great day.